Today, just want to address one question. My buddy Frank Smithwick at Carolina Mat News solicited some questions on his platform that he wanted to send to me to go over in a live, and just some different videos, and some videos specifically for North Carolina wrestlers. As you know, North Carolina has a very special place in my heart, and their season actually is like right now. So I think they're actually starting their season, I think, in a week or two, and they're in a very unique situation because of the season timing. So he sent me a one question, and like I put it in the description of the video. This is hands down the most common question that I get. We get a lot of different questions, but if I could like make a ratio or a percentage of how often I get this question over other questions, I'd say I get this question like 60 to like maybe even 70% of the time. When I do coaching calls with parents and wrestlers around the country, this is typically the question that they put on their questionnaire, which is, how do I get exposure and get on coaches' radars? And I could address that question head on, but that's exactly what the Recruiting Accelerator program is. It teaches you how to do that, and of course a lot more. But the reality is the answer to that question is very layered. There's a lot of different layers to that. It's not a one direct action. There's a plan and a formula and a system that needs to be executed and understood prior to actually getting on those radars and getting that kind of exposure. So I thought about how I wanted to answer the question, and I figured that answering it in a way of like, here's 3 things that you shouldn't do whenever you are trying to get on a college coach's radar. So I said that would be interesting, and I think it would bring some value to some PSAs and their parents. And I also want to note, prior to going and answering this question, is that the Recruiting Accelerator and the value in it and the service and this coaching is not just for wrestlers. What we're finding is that this is equally as valuable to student athletes in all other sports. So I'm really looking forward to scaling and expanding out to other sports outside of wrestling. I love wrestling, but I think there's a lot of PSAs around the country that will benefit from this. So here's what not to do whenever you are trying to get on a college coach radar. The first one is, I wrote all these down, is don't come unprepared. Like have a plan. Don't come unprepared specifically. I'll give 2 specifics on this. Don't like get on a coach's radar and not have your transcripts ready or your test scores. Have your baseline stuff ready to fire off. There's nothing more impressive, or actually there's nothing kind of more of a turnoff. Well, there's lots of things that can be a turnoff, but one of them is like if you're talking to a coach and he's like, hey, can you send me your transcripts? Like, oh, I don't have them on hand, or what is a transcript? Or like, oh, I haven't registered for my SAT yet, and I'm just finished my junior year. It just goes to show that you're not on top of the process. You don't understand it. You probably haven't even looked at your transcripts. It's a huge problem. So what not to do is don't come unprepared. Have your baseline materials and documents ready. Transcript, test scores, and some match film, not a highlight film. I keep saying this. I have so many parents. I made a highlight film for Johnny, and it's like them, busting up a bunch of scrubs. No coach is going to spend their 6 to 10 minutes watching it. Leave your highlight films at home. Have your 3 matches ready, easily accessible, and have those baseline 3. It's what we call your baseline 3 ready to go. Don't not have those and get on someone's radar and then be like, wow, you're totally unprepared. You have no idea what you're doing. The second one was, don't contact a coach without first having submitted their recruiting questionnaire on their website. So that's the first thing I would say, because that's what they're going to tell you. Have you submitted the recruiting questionnaire? And the answer is no. They're going to say, go submit the recruiting questionnaire. Have you even been on our school website before? Have you even looked at the program? Have you looked at the roster? It's not a good look. You need to do some preliminary work. But don't the big no-no here for number 2 is don't email a coach or call a coach or text a coach. First of all, I don't recommend texting a coach in your first outreach, but don't act like you're going to be the guy or the girl that's going to come in and like win a national title for this guy or this coach and like change the face of the program. Basically, have some humility, have some reverence and respect for the program. Let the coach determine how much value you're going to bring to the table after you build a relationship and show them. But don't come in and just assume that you're going to be the man walking in and change the face of the program. I know that might sound, well, I'd never do something like that. You would be surprised at some of these emails these coaches get from people and from high school athletes, and it just has no humility. It's all ego. No one likes ego. No one wants to coach ego. No one wants ego in their program. Unless maybe you're like a top 10 kid or top 50 kid in the country, and maybe a coach might tolerate it depending on what their cultural standards are. But generally speaking, if you're the one that's having to reach out and get on someone's radar, leave your ego at home. No one wants to see it. And then number 3, make sure I got this one right here. Like I said, I wrote all of these down. Don't not have a plan, a communication plan. Don't just think that you're going to go in and start winging it and start just calling coaches and emailing coaches. Like, have some kind of a plan in place, a communication tracker. Like, understand let's just hypothetically say that you have 10 schools on your radar, on your list, right? And it's after June 15th of your sophomore year, so you're going into your junior year, and you can now contact the coaches. Like, you should have a log, and we have a log in the Recruiting Accelerator program to help kids with this, so we know exactly when the last time they communicated, exactly what they talked about, exactly what kind of mode of communication they had, and, were there any action items given? Were there any follow-up items given? That way, the kid and whoever's helping them, which if you're in my program, it would be me, understand what's going on. If you're building a relationship with the coach and you're doing this with 10 different coaches, you should be keeping track of what all that community, that's a lot of work. I mean, even if it's 6, that's still a lot of work. So don't go in and not have like an organizational plan or even a communications plan. Like, understand how you're going to approach them. Understand what kind of questions are important to you. Understand who they are, who the coach is, how to pronounce their name, how to spell their name. I mean, there's so many nuances and layers to this that if you screw up on one, it could totally make you look careless and decrease your value on the spot. Remember, this is a business transaction fundamentally. Your number one objective is to show that you're worth something, worth an investment. And if you're slipping and sliding and not crossing T's and dotting I's, and you're not on their radar to begin with, your room for error, your margin for error is super small. So one little mistake there, and they might just write you off. So it matters. All of that stuff matters. And it is, I wouldn't say it's mind-boggling to me that parents don't understand how layered it is, but it kind of is. I mean, it's, there's still this belief that recruiting is what it was, 20 years ago or even 10. I mean, like that coaches are just going to come out and start combing through states like Virginia and combing through states like North Carolina and fishing for kids and seeking them out and like recruiting them heavily. That's just not how it works. And like I say this all the time, it's the recruit's job to sell him or herself. And if you're going to do that, you have to understand what the recruiting process is, and you have to have a plan. If you don't, the chances of you finding your best fit, finding where you're going to be happy, and casting that net wide it's just a lot slimmer. So, yeah, I wanted to answer that for my buddy Frank at Carolina Mat News. Great guy. Give them a follow, by the way. Follow Carolina Mat News with Frank. He does a lot for the sport down in North Carolina, and they are in a unique situation. So I'm going to make a couple more videos specifically for my friends down in North Carolina who are having just such an oddball season. Their season is literally right in the middle of like NHSCAs and some other national tournaments. So it's a strange time to be a wrestler in North Carolina. But with that said, hope that brought a little value to you. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, tag someone whose kid or who is a high school wrestler who is considering wrestling in college, and let's get them started. Let's get them a free recruiting call lined up, free call lined up with them. They can just go on the website, village-coaching.com, and schedule a free coaching call and determine whether or not the program is a good fit for their family. So again, like, share, comment, and spread the word, especially as we expand into other sports. So with that said, have a great Sunday or Saturday. Jeez, I told you I'm forgetting the days. I'm going to have a great Saturday. My parents are in town. The weather's beautiful. A little cold, but it's all good in the hood. So have a great Saturday.